Thanks again, everyone, for joining. We expect the event runtime to be anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes with some questions for the end. With that said, we'll move to some rules of the road. At the bottom of the meeting room, you will see different options to be able to communicate with us. Please use the Q&A area for questions to the speakers. There's also a chat button that you can use to raise any kind of technical issues during the course of the event. The recording and the event deck is going to be sent out to everybody who attends today. Now, let me go ahead and introduce you to our two speakers of the day. We have Pooja. She has over 11 years of work experience in the technology sector. She's our senior product manager at Entitle and helps deliver different types of SaaS solutions to customers within the OEM space. She helps her customers translate complex data into actionable insights and recommendations, and also helps them create and execute solution roadmaps. She enjoys travel and is currently based out of Paris. And then next, we have Vivek. He is our CEO and founder. He was when I say this, but he has decades of experience working on both sides of the industrial equation. He's passionate about all things install base and simplifying install base workflows to give customer facing OEM teams an opportunity to do more with less. And with that being said, Vivek, off to you.
Colin, you're right. This decades things always gets me, but why not own it when you have it, right? So thank you very much, Colin, for the introduction. Welcome to everybody to our webinar today. We're excited for the next 25 minutes to share with you some of the interesting ideas and observations we've made over the last few months and years that have resulted in this notion of asset lifecycle management. The framework for today is pretty simple. It's really trying to make sure we kind of target this thing correctly. We want to make sure that those of you attending today really care about lifecycle management, and for all the reasons that we will enumerate why. There's some clear hurdles or some obstacles in the way of making sure this thing works correctly. We've observed some state of the art in terms of what people are doing today. And then really in terms of how we can go forward, so we're going to propose a solution for that. Which is really in some ways our coming out party in terms of how we think about this aspect of an OEM's business as well. So with that, let me kind of launch into some of the things, right? So I've been, as Colin said, I've been around for many years, 30 plus years to be exact, in the manufacturing world, in and around equipment manufacturers primarily. And this chart that you see out, his picture that you see out here, really has not changed that much in not just the 30 years I've been in business, but even before that, right? There's a distinct life cycle aspect to it, but there's certain, if you may, rules of the road that people follow that they really haven't changed much over time. And unfortunately, a lot of what you see is reactive. A lot of what you see is something that people have done just the same way for decades. But the fact of the matter is there's been no motivation and there's no incentive for people to change it, because it's an incredibly rich business, if you may. Incredibly large and rich, profitable business for most OEMs, right? So why change a good thing when you don't have to? But I think if you go to the next page, Pooja, if you think about where things are going today, there's just pretty significant changes on the horizon, if not already here, right? It is incredible to me the amount of complexity that exists in an asset. I mean, what started as mechanical stuff, then electromechanical next, and computer and electromechanical now. You got massive fleets of equipment in the field out there that have all mixed ages and technologies and so on and so forth. Crazy complexity. Oh, by the way, while you're at it, your customers don't really care about the complexity that you created. They want you to figure it out, fix it, own it, make sure you can keep them running, right? The expectations only going up. In our app, press a button, get bacon, as a friend of mine used to say, that expectation level has just gone up dramatically. What's apparent to me also is that, people like me are retiring. I mean, I've been around for 32 years, 33 years in the workforce, in the industrial workforce. People of my generation are just retiring in droves. There's a statistic we saw that said there's about 25% of the US manufacturing workforce is over 55, which means you're going to start seeing some pretty large exits coming up in the next 3 to 5 years. And while you're at it, by the way, your investors, your owners, your private equity owners, all have a pretty significant expectation level, and the pressures are quite high. And the favorite phrase that I hear time and time again is do more with less. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be consigned to that do more with less, unless you find a way to think about life differently. Pooja, keep going. So, what I've seen is the emergence of servitization models, if you may, right? And this word servitization has been around for a long time. And candidly, I used to just dismiss it as like yet another fad. But it's very clear to me that over time, unless manufacturers and customers align on one of these models, it's going to be a pretty difficult situation for most of them, right? So there's a variety of things we see. We've all been around quote unquote service contracts, if you may, or performance agreements, service agreements for a long time. We're now definitely moving to a more sophisticated level of things, from everything from outcome-based pricing to machines as a service to really subscription, right? Can I buy it by the hour, buy it by the drink? And these relationships span much of the life cycle of the assets. It's not a one and done deal anymore. It's not like you can ship a pump into your channel and be forgetting about it. You got to wind up having a relationship pretty much with the life cycle of the asset. That starts fundamentally changing how the OEM has to think about A, the asset, the B, the customer, and C, the life cycle, and how do you manage it. So with that, I think we might be up at our first poll question, Pooja. So I'd be interested in finding out from people, what are the business models that you have today? It'll be good to kind of get a sense for where we are, because I think it's going to be instructive for us to understand how you guys are thinking about it and where you're headed in this respect. So I'll give about 30 seconds here to get some votes going. So please go ahead and start voting. Okay. While the software tallies the votes, maybe we can kind of set this thing up to say, look, dependent on where you are in this life cycle, dependent on where you are in the business model you're pursuing, there's a set of things you have to do. And with that, Pooja, maybe it's time to go to the next page and see where we're headed out here. So service contracts is a predominant mode of operation today. Almost nobody's doing subscriptions, machine as a service outcome pricing. Well, that's good to know. So Pooja, over to you if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vivek, for setting the context. And I saw the poll results as well. Think about managing all your business models that we just saw in the poll results with decades-old technology approaches. So there are multiple ways by which you manage life cycles. You have BI and data lakes. While they're powerful, they require extensive setup time, specialized experience. CRM customizations, it usually takes about 1 to 2 years to implement. But of course, your data reliability is still questionable even after the 1 to 2 years. Your in-house tools, which are often built by growth teams, they struggle with turnaround time and accuracy of data again. And we all know spreadsheets, while very convenient, they remain localized efforts and teams can't sustain long term. So meanwhile, of course, you have tribal knowledge, product knowledge, manuals, and all of these are information silos. They lead to inconsistent documentation. And all of this critical expertise walks out of the door with departing employees. As Vivek said, there's a lot of turnaround in the workforce as well. You don't have a lot of experts in the industry anymore. There are new people joining. So the common thread behind all of this is all these solutions are time consuming, of course, but more than that, it's hard to maintain and ultimately extremely difficult to scale across organizations. This is exactly why OEMs definitely need a fundamental shift in how we manage asset life cycles today. So with that, there's yet another poll where I'd like to know how you keep track of your life cycle stages in your install base. It could be a combination of spreadsheets, CRM, papers, and there's an option for others, but feel free to message on the chat. So I'll give about 30 seconds for this as well. Okay. Interestingly, most of the answers are spreadsheets and CRMs, which is not at all surprising, so as to say, and I'll tell you why. So I've been meeting a lot of our customers. That's why, we thought of keeping this webinar to share my experiences too. A lot of customers, a lot of prospects, and I've spoken to a lot of industry experts as well to speak specifically about asset lifecycle management and how do they do it today. And one recent conversation really opened up my eyes on what the scale of this problem is. So while I was working with one of our customers' product teams to work on some proactive campaigns, we realized we hit a wall. So now they were trying to manage life cycle of just 3 or 4 pieces of equipment. It seems very straightforward, right? But they were drowning in multiple data sources. They had tribal knowledge scattered across teams, countless spreadsheets, thick equipment manuals, and years of service notes. Even worse, they had no unified way to show this to their teams or even to the service organization who needs it the most. And here's what I've been hearing consistently across the market. Teams are overwhelmed. They simply don't have resources to maintain and update all of this critical data. Leaders are just frustrated by how much time it takes to even find basic information, which is in these information silos. And customers are demanding better and better customer experience as well as, managing them. So all of this is just a lot of pressure put on where you still don't have a good lifecycle management. Coming to when we look at lifecycle management challenges, the downside risks if you don't have a systematic lifecycle management is a dangerous domino effect, which is why I call it the risk cascade. So it starts with a fundamental problem, which is a lack of a systematic lifecycle management. Looking at the operational level, you immediately see issues emerge such as increased part failures because you can't really predict maintenance needs. Service delivery suffers because you're using reactive approaches. Duty cycles catch you off guard because you can't really predict patterns. And version incompatibilities because you're not able to understand what's happening in your install base. And all of this creates just technical headaches. Now, cascading down are actually your business impacts. So all of these operational issues quickly translate into serious business impacts. You face revenue losses because you can't really capture service opportunities at the right time. Meanwhile, your operational expenses are spiraling out of control because you're constantly in firefighting mode rather than plan, maintenances according to the asset's life cycle. And the final impact cuts to the core of your business. So your customers start churning because they're not getting the outcomes they were promised. Bottom line takes a compounding hit because you've lost both revenue and increased costs. And perhaps the most important, you lose faith of your customers. But of course, most OEMs still remain reactive, which is a big problem. So remember the customer example that I shared with you just 2 slides earlier, where the product team was struggling with just 3 or 4 pieces of equipment. Let me tell you the entire scope of what they're dealing with and what I've heard all OEMs deal with through my conversations. So there's structured data. You manage your orders, service, contract data, service logs, warranty claims, maintenance schedules, pricing tables. And then there are performance metrics, which could be installation records, asset configurations. But all of this is between different systems and databases. But here's where it gets really complex, which is your unstructured site. So it's a gold mine of information. It's critical information like detailed manuals, service reports, field notes, inspection checklists, countless email threads, training documents, even photos and videos, right, from the field. So all of this piece contains very vital life cycle information, but it's scattered and very hard to access systematically. And this isn't static because equipment becomes more and more sophisticated and connected. So we are seeing even more data sources emerge, such as IoT sensors, real-time performance data, maybe even customer feedback platforms. So the volume of this lifecycle relevant information keeps growing. So the challenge isn't just about having all of this data. It's about actually making this data into insights. And all this data is exactly what is needed to manage those critical risks that we discussed, which will prevent revenue loss and OpEx overruns. So the key is bringing it all together systematically so that you can create and manage your asset lifecycle better. But let me pause here for a minute. So we've identified all the rich data sources. But here's a real challenge. We still can't blend them effectively. The problem is particularly acute with unstructured data, which are in manuals and emails and technical documentations. So think about where all of this valuable insights is. It'll be in your service notes scribbled during field visits. It'll be in lengthy email threads between technicians. It'll be in phone conversations. It's scattered across thousands of technical documents. But that's where the gold mine is. But it's nearly impossible to extract and connect it meaningfully with your structured data. And that's where GenAI comes in. So GenAI is not just another technology wave, it's actually a fundamental shift. I'll walk you through how it could actually help you. And it's not just about analyzing the data. It's understanding the context behind it, recognizing patterns, and it's also generating human-like responses so that you can make sense of all of this information. So it's a leap of faith, of course, but it's definitely backed by transformative capabilities that you've never had before. And this is a hot term today, which is why we made sure that we talk about it. So let's get into how GenAI can drastically simplify your asset lifecycle management. So today's reality, as we saw throughout, 100% data is fragmented across systems, completely manual processes. Service technicians don't really have structured pre-visit research. But here's where it gets interesting. GenAI transforms all of these challenges into actual insights and opportunities. So take your service manuals. It'll convert it into automated checklists. Take your historical records. It'll reveal predictive patterns from your historical records. All that tribal knowledge which is trapped into people's heads, it can actually become scalable intelligence across your organization. Your paper forms transform into digital workflows. And scattered documents also can become your unified knowledge base. So what makes this truly powerful is GenAI's ability to understand the patterns regardless of how the information is written or what language it's in, without you doing any heavy configuration upfront. So it's no longer just digitizing the information, it's actually making it intelligent and actionable. And again, this is just the beginning. The possibilities keep continuing to expand, and we're seeing it almost every day. On LinkedIn, I'm sure you're seeing many GenAI use cases every day, not just in the OEM industry, but everywhere. But coming back to how this looks like in a very simplistic way. So on one side, you have all your unstructured data. You have manuals, service notes, call logs, design documents, photos, videos. And on one side, you have all your structured data, which should be your order data or ERP, CRM, field service data, everything that's within it. And then the magic happens when you actually combine all of these into two powerful AI layers. GenAI's large language model that understands and processes unstructured information, and database AI that handles your install-based data. So when you synthesize all of this together, of course, enriched by domain expert training, because it has to be trained over time, you get something remarkable, which is a unified view that converts all of this into actionable business outcomes. So let's think of what it could mean in real life when we call it as business outcomes. It could be improved asset performance. It could be increased revenue because now you have optimized service delivery, more satisfied customers because you're proactively engaging with them, stronger relationships, and of course, the most important, better risk management across your entire install base. So all of this just isn't theoretical. It's practical right now as an approach, and you can finally bridge the gap between your structured and unstructured world and deliver actual business value across every step while taking care of the businesses that we spoke about earlier. And this brings me to a very exciting big announcement. I'm thrilled to announce entitled Asset Lifecycle Management. What you're looking at is a prototype. I'll be walking you through it as well. But it's a game-changing solution that finally brings together everything that we've been discussing. So with that, this just isn't another feature of Entitled. It's actually a comprehensive solution which can let you build life cycles, you can assess risks, you can manage changes in your life cycle, and you can create actionable plans to it because there has to be some action out of all the data that you're seeing. And what makes this truly exciting is that it's built, of course, as we always do, specifically for OEMs. So we know exactly what challenges we will be addressing for you that we talked about earlier. So you're not going to have scattered data anymore, no more manual processes, just clear, actionable lifecycle intelligence. With that, I am going to switch into a quick demo. So just bear with me for a few seconds. Okay, there you go. Just a disclaimer, this is something which we are very early on in our build process. So feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to send a QR code later on where you can provide us input to. This is something we'd love to build together if you're ready to take on this adventure with us. So as you see, if I am a service technician, if I'm a field service technician or a salesperson, and I'm visiting AEC Holdings in Exton, Pennsylvania, I get a real nice comprehensive view of the 28 assets that I have over there and what life cycle stage are they at. I see various colors representation saying, okay, some are due for a periodic inspection, some are due for an initial inspection, and some are due for overhaul. Now the color represents just how urgent it is. So let's just imagine, because I'm here, I'd like to dive deep into, I really want to see out of these 28, what are these 10 assets which are due for periodic inspection? And I see down below, there are these list of assets as well, where I can see the age, the recommended service value, the last time it was maintained, as well as when it was shipped. All of this is great. What am I going to get next out of it? So I can go one layer deeper, where now I can see for this particular equipment, which is an N90P, which is 3 years old. Of course, it's due for a periodic inspection. And as a part of periodic inspection, there are these 6 bars that I could sell to them. I can directly create an opportunity from here. And there's an entire service checklist which is related to the inspection that I'll be doing, which is perfect. Now you don't have to go into your manual sheets, type in information, because this is all also going to plug into a health check application where you can actually create this checklist and fill it up so that everything is digitized for you. I can even go a step further if I'm sitting with a customer and visualize with them, hey, Mr. Customer, 3 years from now, this equipment is going to be 6 years of age. It's actually going to be going through an overhaul. Let's talk about a service plan for you. I can be very smart about, talking about, okay, the service value that you would need to pay at that point of time is 6,200. Why not talk about a service contract which covers this, which is of lesser value? So it helps me and my customers save costs too. Or maybe I can just talk about an upgrade. So this entire view is not just helping you understand, what can I do now with my customer and assess the risk, but also help you forecast what can I do next with my customer, which is amazing in terms of being proactive with your customer, as well as assessing the risk along with your customer and not just you beforehand. So that was a quick demo. But if you do want to get in touch with us, we have this QR code. This will be sent to you as well. You can book a call with us and we'll be sharing this with you. But if you're ready to move from, your reactive to proactive asset lifecycle management and better manage your risks as we discussed before, let's talk. And pretty excited to take this forward. With that, I will hand it over to Vivek.
Thank you, Pooja. That was great. I think for me, in terms of the summary, the headline is really, the life cycle is really the mother lode, if you may, of value for an OEM, right? And the collection of all the life cycles they have in the field is really where the action is in our mind. But it's not without risks. You have to make sure you maintain and manage those risks carefully, because it's not just a revenue hit, it's not just a profit hit that you take, but reputation and loyalty hits that you'll take if you don't do things correctly. So being able to kind of make sure you manage it correct in a way that is high integrity, high value is probably of utmost importance, and it stops being a elective procedure to a mandatory procedure in my mind, right? And of course, you may say, Vivek, so what's taken us so long to get here? And candidly, if it weren't for the Gen AI inflection that's happening around us, this stuff would be hard to do, right? Pooja talked about some of the customers she's talked to. We were on a customer call yesterday. We looked at emails, we looked at manuals, we looked at things coming in where they need to go figure things out, right? Being able to integrate assemble, blend, process, all that unstructured data was just really hard until not too long ago. And now the ability to pull it all together is really opening up doors that we could never have a chance to kind of go do all these things at scale. And what I would say to you is many of you that we've talked to have told us you do it painstakingly by hand, and therefore you only do it for your top customers. I think what this really does is, to use a very typical marketing phrase, it really democratizes asset lifecycle management for everybody, right? So it's almost like asset lifecycle management for all is the way I think about it. So that's our pitch for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Now we're open for questions. So Colin, over to you. I'm going to turn my camera off and mic mute till you get the questions going.
Yeah, thanks for that. Always great to hear you both speak. I'm really excited about what we have coming out for all of our customers and potential prospects out there. So we did have a couple questions. Hopefully we can maybe get another one or two coming in while you answer these. First one is, how large of an install base would you recommend that someone move from spreadsheets or a CRM to something more sophisticated, like an asset lifecycle manager tool?
Let me take that, Pooja, and you can jump in if you can. I think from my point of view, the cutoff tends to be, in my mind, over 1,000, 2,000 assets, and because it starts becoming spreadsheet destructive. If you have 10, 15 years of data, if you have 1,000, 2,000 assets, these spreadsheets get really unwieldy, right? And anything more than that just starts becoming problematic to kind of build and scale. But more importantly, what happens is you start building different spreadsheets for different customers, and assumptions change. Somebody will do something different, and then it becomes highly variable and starts breaking down quickly. So I think 1,000 is probably my cutoff point. I don't know if, Pooja, you have any other point of view, but that's where I would start.
I would agree with the same. I think beyond 1,000, it goes to a point everyone has their own way of putting a spreadsheet too. So that's also going to be inconsistent. 1,000 is still manageable, but from what I've seen with customers beyond 1,000, you should definitely do a more systematic approach than spreadsheets.
Great. Thanks for that. We have a couple more minutes. I have a question here. What types of teams and/or role functions do you see that one would need to carry out an ALM strategy or asset lifecycle management strategy?
So that's another important question for two reasons. One is, I always think that asset lifecycle management or install base really is a team game, which is to say that you have people in engineering and operations and sales and service. Everybody has a role to play, right? And I'll argue that a really good asset lifecycle or asset strategy can be a valuable tool for sales and marketing and service, and then give the feedback to engineering and operations as you start learning about stuff. But the primary personas, I would say, just to make sure this is not a free-for-all, is service-led with sales right partnered with them, and then product and marketing and engineering behind it. So that would be my starting point of the asset lifecycle strategy.
Pooja, did you have anything else that you wanted to add into that, or?
No, I think Vivek covered it all. The only thing I completely agree with, it is a team game. And in fact, the customer that I was speaking with before, the product team initiated it and they really wanted everyone else to use it. So everyone realizes the importance, but it's just how much time do we put into it, right? That's where automating it and creating a solution for it was the most important part for them.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight. So it doesn't look like we had any more questions come in. If there are some questions that come up, please feel free to reach out to us. We are at the end of time as well. We appreciate everybody joining again. Hopefully we'll get a couple more of these before the end of the year. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thanks, Colin, for emceeing today, and Pooja for the content. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.